the next thing we want to do to this, other than stand here and admire it for a few minutes, we want to put a couple holes in the side here to put some grub screws in that will tighten up on the gib. You know, it's going to be a shame to mill out part of this metal here to make room for the gib, but that's the purpose of it. So I'm going to get the drill chuck in there and get it set up to drill a couple holes in here for the grub screws. Since the depth of the dovetail was 300 thousandths, I've come in 150 thousandths off the edge here. Now in its final project that this whole dovetail system will be used in, the mill will only slide in one direction and won't go much more than, well, it won't go a full half. It'll basically extend out an inch out here. So I'm going to put a threaded hole here at halfway point, and then 1 inch from that, which will be about a 1/4 inch off the end down here. And again, I'm going to use 832. I said grub screws a while ago, but what I'll wind up with is actually just thumb screws. All right, now that that's drilled and tapped, I will carry it back over there to the workbench and of course remove these burrs under here. All right, so this is the way this will work. This moves in and out. I don't have any thumb screws right now, so I'll just use a couple socket heads. But these will tighten down on there. And some of you may be wondering why I'm going to put a gib in here. A gib is simply a spacer between these two. If this was going to be put in place and set and left, this setup would be fine. But this is going to need some micro adjustments on it. And I don't want to take a chance in this valley right here of these set screws cutting into them, or the thumb screws cutting into them and preventing them from being able to be fully adjustable. So if you got a mill or a lathe, you're familiar with what a gib is. To make the gib, I'm going to use a piece of 1/2 inch wide, 1/8 inch thick hot roll. That'd be perfectly fine for what we're going to do right here. I'm going to mount this on one of these mini pallets that I made quite a while back to go on my mini lathe, mini mill. I'm just going to keep it straight with that edge up front. We'll use a little angle cube here. Make sure it's clean. And then set this to our 60-degree dovetail. On the cube, I'm actually reading 30 degrees here. All right, that's simple enough to reset again, so I'll simply turn it down where I can get to it. I'll deburr this piece. Knock a few of those burrs off, and then show you where we're at with the dovetail block. Okay, I'm using one of the adjustable parallels again, just to help hold this in place. But right there's the how the gib is fitting in there. We're going to, of course, take it off right up here. So I'm going to lay that out. I'm not sure which end will show up, which end will be out on the pallet, so I'm just going to mark them both. And we'll just use a straight edge and the Randy Richards scribe. Now I'll get this set back up in the on the pallet and mill off this to the line or just below the line. All right, I'll get the gib deburred. Then we'll get set back up to with the dovetail cutter to turn the mill down on one side only to compensate for the gib. All right, there's the gib set in there, and it is just a little below this lip right here. Now to keep it in place, once I get the male piece done, I will come back here, run a screw in, or probably use a transfer punch, and just put a little indentation in there, and then take the ball end mill and put just a small dimple in there, and that's what these set screws will set in to keep the gib from moving in and out as well. All right, I've scribed the line now. I put the two pieces back together, about halfway slid in, put the gib the rest of the way, and scribe the line there. So I'm just going to keep working to this line. Okay, I think about one more pass will do this, about 15 more thousandths. Perfectly fine if it's a loose fit. As a matter of fact, it needs to be somewhat loose on this so the gib can be used to tighten it down. Okay, there's the gib fit now. Screws in the side, we'll tighten it down. All right, I've got all three pieces put together here and got a couple of the socket head cap screws in there tightening it down. I'm hoping that this will put enough of a mark on the gib itself and not have to punch it. Let's take a look and see. Oh yeah, I put a couple good indication marks on there. So I'm going to go over to the back over to the mill now and take this ball head end mill and put just a little indentation at both of these places, and that'll just be a home for the thumb screws to rest in. All right, with that 60-degree angle on the end of the gib, of course it wanted to jack up in the vise, so I simply mounted it back on the pallet again, set the pallet level on there, on the vise, and milled out just two little indentions here. So let's see how it goes together now. All right, there we go now. Screw is holding the gibs in place so the gib doesn't move. Of course, it all needs a little lube on it now. Matter of fact, why don't I give it a squirt or two. The gib is staying into place. Needs a little, probably needs a little more deburring in places, but overall, I'm happy with this. I think what I'm going to do next is lock it down with the gibs in there. With the gib in there. And with all that cutting back and forth, I've got a little bit of a lip I can feel right there. And a little bit on the ends. So I think what I'm going to do is set this back up on a parallel with it tightened down good. Set it on this flat part and run the the fly cutter across the edges and across the ends to bring this all back to size. All right, I carried this back to the mill, and with the fly cutter, was able to clean up all the edges, get it back to square edges. Then I carried it over to the belt grinder and cleaned it up even more. Be an ideal situation for a surface grinder now, but since I don't have one, I'm going to settle with this. What I'm going to do next is, well, I'm going to conclude this video now, but off camera, what I'm going to do is clean these pieces up real good, give them a good soapy bath, and then I'm going to cook them in the oven around 500 degrees for a couple hours and just blue them, give them a good blue tint. I encourage you to come back, keep an eye on the channel. My next video, or my planned next video, is going to actually be putting this to use, making a tool to use on the lathe. So I hope you've enjoyed this, and I hope it will assist you in matching a male to a female dovetail or a female to a male, or making both pieces and matching them together. So I'll see you on the next video.